Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Crafternoon. I'm here in Kamloops Public Library's new makerspace. Today's a pretty cool day, and we're going to make a pretty cool craft in our new makerspace. Today is World Bee Day. So, not all of you have places or the capabilities or the know-how or the desire to be beekeepers, but we can all, in a very simple way, protect our pollinators by making tiny little bee hotels. So what you're going to need for this project is an empty pop bottle or water bottle, a utility knife, a couple of pencils or markers that are of different diameters. We've got a fat one here and a skinny one, a pair of scissors, some tape, a hot glue gun, and some paper lunch bags or old paper grocery bags. Unbleached paper is best because this is what we're going to make the little rooms in our bee hotel out of. And it's probably best that they are untreated and treated with as few chemicals as possible, just for the health of the bees that are going to live in there. So there are many different types of bees that do not build hives and do not make honey and do not make wax to build hives out of. Leafcutter bees and mason bees are the most common ones, and they are solitary bees. They live alone. They look for little tunnels to build their homes in. And they will nest inside tiny little holes in trees or in a bee hotel like the one we're gonna make. Leafcutter bees will cut pieces of leaves and pull them in to build little caps where they will lay their eggs to protect them from the elements. And mason bees will actually use mud and dirt to build those same caps. So, first step is we need to remove the label from whatever type of bottle you are using. You could also do this with like an old piece of plastic tubing, and you want to cut this off at where it starts to be the widest. So this is the part that's tricky. You may need help with this part. Oh, I also forgot to mention, you're also going to need some cord to hang this with. So you just want to cut this off. And this piece can just go in the recycling. This is what we're looking for. This is an empty cut off water or pop bottle. So I already have one here that I've started. So when you cut it off, you'll notice that it's a little sharp. To protect the bees' little wings, what you can do is either run a piece of duct tape around it or put a layer of hot glue just around that rim and let it dry, and that way they won't cut their little wings on it. Make sure it's all got a nice little covering on it, just like that. So while that dries, the next step, we want to be able to hang this. We're not just going to set it on a tree or something. You need to cut a couple of little holes. What actually might work really well for doing this part is just using your hot tip of your hot glue gun, depending what type of hot glue gun you have. And then tricky part is, oh, my glue is still hot. We need to let that dry a bit. You don't want to be stuck to your bee home. You want to push it through, push your piece of cord through. I'm going to use my scissors to do that. Push it through the one hole you've made. And if you can reach inside, if your hand's big enough, if not, just gently grab it with a pair of scissors. Don't snip it closed, but pull it through. And we're going to push it up through that second hole that we made. In theory. Things can be a little bit trickier than just simply pulling it through. I think I need to make my hole bigger. I think that's the issue. There we go. Through it goes. And then we can even it up and tie it so that when our bee hotel is finished, you can snug it up into a tree. You don't want it out in the open. You want to hang this in a tree or in a corner of your house where it's not going to be disturbed by the wind so much. And to make sure our bee hotel is fairly waterproof, because that's important for the bees, the little holes that we've made, you can just fill that with some more hot glue just to keep rain from getting in there. So now I've got a nice warm dry hotel. Now we need to build the rooms for our bee hotel. Set that aside. So to build the little rooms, just take your paper bags and cut them into strips. And then you can open it up. They can actually be quite thin. And then we're going to measure. You don't want, like, I don't know if you can see these. Mine don't quite come to the front of the bee hotel because you don't want those little ends open to the elements. You want them tucked back inside your hotel so that rain can't get in there. So you start rolling. I'm going to tip you guys down so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So just varying sizes, because bees are different sizes. You start rolling them on your markers or whatever you happen to be using. And I taped mine front and back just to make them more sturdy. If you want to use hot glue, you can, but I had tape handy and this is just a quick and easy way to make it. And then you push it out and you have a little tube. We'll do one of the smaller ones. There are also solitary bees who live alone who tunnel under the ground too. And some bees who, solitary bees who live in little tubes like this, but they build their own in trees. They're the ones that have really strong mandibles for chewing through wood. And you just want to keep making and making and making until you think you have enough to stuff your little bee hotel with. So you can buy fancy bee hotels that are made out of wood. The tubes, the little tubes that go inside, you do have to replace them every year because they will have all of the old nests in them and the bees won't like to nest in them anymore. I think I'll make one more really big one and we'll see where we're at with filling our bee hotel full of rooms. I learned about leafcutter bees quite by accident a couple of summers ago when what I thought was a wasp was crawling into a little hole in the siding of my home, and I was very concerned that we were going to have a wasp's nest. So I did some research and discovered it was actually a leafcutter bee. So we let it be. See what I did there? So you just layer them in there, push them all to the back. Different sizes in different places where you think they'll fit. And you want to pack them in quite tightly, but without crushing the little tubes that you've made, so that the bees can get all the way to the back where it's safe and warm for them. And then in the spring, once you think your bee hotel is empty of all of its visitors, you can just pull these out and fill it with new ones. So there we go. A lovely little easy peasy bee hotel. And you can hang that up in a tree. Thanks guys, and happy World Bee Day.